Hey, everybody. Time again for Jay Niblick and Bryan Arzani to give you some cool education on how to develop a profitable consulting practice. I'm Jay Niblick, Bryan Arzani,
Bryan
president.
Arzani, what's up? How you doing,
Not
Jay?
much. I'm good. I'm good. Coming out of some winter weather here. So, look, we give you guys 20 minutes, so we're not going to chat. Bryan, why do we give them 20 minutes?
Well, you know what, Jay? I find time and time again, there's folks out there that love you just comb the web because it's full of information or high theoreticals. They just want to learn for the sake of learning. And here's the deal. If you've got more than 20 minutes to sit around and just fill your cup with cool information, that's probably your problem. So we found that the top professionals out there, the most profitable consultants, 20 minutes is the max amount of time they've got to just dedicate because you know what? They're going to the next call. And here's what I've also found, Jay. Isn't it funny? They'll say, you know what? Even if I don't have a call, I manufacture a reason because you know what? Somebody's waiting for me out there. And if I'm just sitting here, you know what? Blind squirrel finds a nut, or they say in the South, you know, a blind, pig finds an acorn if it looks long enough. So you know what? Let's go. 20, baby.
All right. So today we're talking about some really pragmatic shit. Okay. It's proposals. How do you write a winning proposal? Here's the key, and it's in the Profitable Consultant. You guys need to read it. This is all the stuff that we teach on and a whole lot more. The biggest mistake that I see people make is they're afraid to make proposals live. And if you read the Profitable Consultant, you'll see that a proposal is not a proposal. There should never be a proposal. It's a confirmation, okay? Everything is negotiated in advance as I'm live talking with them. If like one of the first rules in proposal writing, if the first time that prospect sees the price is in the written proposal that you emailed over, you're wrong. You're probably dead and you're wrong. If you're lucky, you found a nut. Okay. You got your squirrel. You found your acorn. Here's the typical scenario. Guys just out there doing the typical sales thing and blah, 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 and that's great. Well, I appreciate it. I don't want to take too much of your time. Thanks for telling me kind of what you need. And let me go back to the office. I'll work some stuff up and I'll submit a proposal. I'll email it over to you in the next day or two. All right, cool. Sounds fine. No talk about the big picture. No talk about the granular picture. And that's what you have to do. Big picture, what's the problem? Let's talk about the cause. We've identified and going to recommend a solution. And then you have to work through the granular aspects of that solution. That would entail me coming in and doing this. That would me doing that. It's going to cost this. Here's how I get paid. Here's when I get paid. All of that should be talked about face to face or on the phone. But it should be a live back and forth as to what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah, I think.
And then you go home, you write that up, and it's just strictly a confirmation, like an MOU, a memorandum of understanding. It's just to put down and make it concrete what you've already done. The proposal doesn't do anything other than confirm, like an email. It says, I'll send you an email afterwards with the specifics of what we just decided. That's it. It's not some big fancy government RFP where you're going in with 20 other bidders and you're writing up a proposal and a purchasing coordinator is looking at them all going, No. It's the kiss of death if you're trying to do this. Go ahead, Bryan.
No, you say it all the time, Jay. You say the person that identifies the problem earns the right to fix it. And so in that discussion, when we're having that discussion around why we're even talking, it's that co-authoring of both eyes on it. And in that moment when they go, huh, or they go, oh, or then that moment when they're going like that, that's the opportunity, not for us to say, can I give you a proposal on that? That's the opportunity, like you always talk about, is quantify it. What is that? What is the cost of that issue? What are the ripple effects of that issue? How long has that been an issue? And that's the time to take feverish notes. And then, like you said, we're going to be hashing that out. So you say, so when you say that this group has not been cohesive since an introduction of the new leader, what does that mean, right? And as you start to expand on that, you may find a lot of times, Jay, I know you've done this. You go on a sales call and all of a sudden the agreement at the end is not what they initially decided to bring you in for, because you've really truly helped them look at their issue or identify it in a way they'd never identified it. And now you're getting to, like you said, that root cause where there's really a profitable opportunity for both parties.
And that's part of the problem. A lot of the people haven't gone back, and if you haven't watched the previous videos, they haven't taken the approach of a problem cost solution. They're selling a service like a freaking commodity. All right. And the shit just kills me. Let me come in and get some few minutes of your time, and I'm going to talk to you about our sales training program. I'm going to talk to you about our leadership development program. And it's this widget, and it's in a box, and it's pre-canned, and I can go out and I'll talk about the features and the functions and the benefits of this freaking box, and here's what it costs. They haven't gone through the process of saying, so what's the problem? What's the cause? When you do that, and then you've identified the cause of the problem, and you're talking about what the solution is, you don't have to have as hard a time writing up a proposal. Now, there's one exception, and it doesn't mean that you still get to submit a proposal cold. Many times what causes people to do this, there's a few things. Either A, their personality is such that they're afraid to negotiate, and they're kind of afraid to spit the price out. This is the first reason why we see people do this. They're afraid. They're not confident in their value, and they'd rather say, cool, awesome, I got you, I'm out of here, and they run away, and then they're okay with an email. I'll email this number to him. And I'm not there when he sees it, because I can't bring myself to say, it's going to cost you $75,000. It's a 12-month process. They want to go, I'll write it and I'll send it to him, and I'll see if that floats. And then he can come back. And I'll pray that he gets it.
Get upset.
So that's the first reason. So if you're afraid to state the number out loud, love you folks, get another job.
Well,
okay? And I'm not being a hard ass. If you can't understand your own value and have confidence in saying, here's the proposal that I think is fair, you're not going to make it in this business, because you don't have a team of 10 people around you. You can't send in your closer. You don't get to be the expert and then some other salesperson's negotiating. You got to get over that. And there's not any other solution than dive in and get used to it. Real quick, the second reason we see people do this, and this is the one that is, I understand, somewhat legitimate. There are a lot of moving parts. I don't want you to have to go, do something, Mr. Smith, while I noodle on paperwork to think, what's the structure? Let's see, we had 17 people that we need to do. It does take some time in the beginning. If you're not really good with what you know and what you're going to offer, if you haven't done it 100 times, I get how it can take a few minutes for you to put your thoughts together as to what you think is a real value proposition based price. And you want to go back in time to do that. But say, all right, tell you what, let me go put all this together. Let me think about the different variables and solution this out. Let's talk again tomorrow, or let's talk again Thursday. Or don't say, I'll go back and then submit a proposal. Say, I need some time to put thoughts together on what's the best remedies here and modalities. I'll come back and we'll talk again. All you're doing is saying, give me the time, which sometimes it can be complicated and you need that time, but then don't just submit it in later. Never submit the proposal where they don't already know exactly what's going to be in it. Right.
Well, and the old rule is proposals don't sell, salespeople do. And so yes, we're always going to go back in, and when you're in front of the individual, you got so many opportunities. I'm going to rescue real quick, Jay. I'm going to rescue a lot of the folks that are watching this webinar right now that are thinking, Jay just told me to quit, or whatever. Because here's what I love it, because that's the reality in terms of just if you don't find a way to do it. And really, let me articulate what Jay just said. He said, if you don't know how to explain your value and charge for it, go find another job. That's true. Here's what Jay helped me do with the Genius process. And this is why I eat, breathe, sleep, poop, pee what we do. I am a high altruist. I'm a high I, and I'm high empathy. I am the last guy that's going to sit in front of a client and go, if you're not willing to invest $75,000, here's what I'll tell you. I've never done it. But here's what I used to do. I used to be the guy that would deliver the proposal and then get the answer later. So as I learned the Genius process and I learned how to celebrate who I was, I learned to identify my blind spot up front. And here's how I start sales calls out. I tell people this. Through the course of our conversation, you're going to find a place in this conversation where you start to go, you know what? I feel like Bryan or his organization would be a good partner to partner with. When you feel that, I need you to let me know. And I tell them this up front, because here's my blind spot. My blind spot is I want to serve you, and I'm going to give you everything I got. And here's the part that's uncomfortable for me. It's uncomfortable for me to tell you that it's going to cost a lot of money because I'm really good. So in that moment, when you start to go, hey, I think this is kind of cool, stop me. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bracket for you roughly where we're at investment-wise. which for me, being a high I altruist empathy guy who's really the product, like you all are, you're the product, and it's hard sometimes for some of us. I can bracket it. I go, you know what? And here's how I bracket it. I don't go, it's going to be between this and this. If you blame it on your experience, you're not going to have a fight. And so I can simply say, typically with a project like this, it's going to be in that 68 to 84,000, depending on time and a lot of other variables. And if that's not where you were thinking, then let's readjust our conversation right now. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there, Jake, because
Oh no,
some people are like, shit, man, I'm done.
you know, and I know I can be a hard ass sometimes, but you know, I
that's
think
your
that's
gift.
an attitude to the people that are, you know, the 1,600 consultants that we have out there, and I push them, and and almost always they convert. I'm talking specifically of if you stop and say, "There's no way I'm ever going to be comfortable saying I am worth $50,000."
Yeah.
We'll help you try to get past that. We'll show you ways to work with it. If you can't, if you're saying to yourself, "I'm never going to be able to do that," then you're never going to be able to get these deals. You
That's
know,
a powerful word, is never. So if they're
yeah,
saying that, you're right, Jay. You can't say
you can't
never.
hide and say, "Well, that's the one area where I'll just submit the proposal later."
That's weak.
I didn't
Yeah.
have to stand in front of them and say, "This is going to cost you 50,000." And I have seen and talked with consultants that have never charged more than $5,000 or $6,000, $7,000 for a single engagement. That's their ceiling, you
Yeah.
know. And when they come to us, we work with them on how to get bigger and better, because that's never going to make them super profitable, because they're never going to have enough time to trade for a $5,000 engagement when it's all them, all on, you know. And the problem with that is they're charging $5,000, and the value that they're fixing for the company is $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 in value. They're helping with teams that are having huge
Right.
turnover, and they're having impacts, and post, you know, engagement, they do realize $300,000, $400,000 in saved expenses from not having, you know, people that are quitting left and right in turnover, or sales improvements and lack of incursion from the enemy. And, you know,
Or a big thing
still
that's going on
charging
right now.
$5,000. And that's a commoditized, I was here for X many hours, I'm going to charge you X many dollars per hour. And that's other webinars that we've seen.
Well, and some of the folks out there now are working with IT teams, right? Where they've got windows of time, the business has a requirement, and they've put together an agile team or a sprint team that's going to operate for an 8-week period. And that, if you don't quantify that value, so should we get into the proposal? Like, let's give some of those, like you said, the great tactical, pragmatic things of what should we say in the beginning of it?
Tactical number one is never submit a proposal, submit a confirmation. You can call it a proposal because they haven't approved it yet. Number two, and this is all we'll have time for, and again, we talk about it in the book, option of multiple yeses. Okay. Whether you're super confident or brand new and starting and insecure, always do this. I always do this. I mean, I can think of a few exceptions. Options of multiple yeses are, and this happens live as well, but you write it up in the confirmation.
Yeah.
And it's, if I give you one box to choose, yes or no, there's one chance for yes, everything else is no. So I go, here's the project, here's the program, and it costs $10,000. The option of multiple yeses is give them 3 options. Always give them 3 options. And this doesn't happen as much. So when Bryan talks about there's a range in here, you know, and it could be 60,000, it could be 80,000. There's some variables. It all depends. That gives him room for 3 options. So you start with where you think you really are as option B. Okay. And when you write that up, you say, here's option A, and then B and C, but I start with B because 75 to 80% of the people will always choose the middle option because it's the most pragmatic. It's the most rational. You know, the one is cheap and they don't want to be that person. The one is just, oh, that's, you know, I don't need the best absolutely of everything, but it's there in case you do. And you start with what you think is really where they should probably be at option B. Throw in everything to create a much more expensive option A.
Yep.
And then subtract some to create C. But never change price without changing value. So if this is the ideal value that you think is plenty sufficient, when you go down to C, don't create something that's not sufficient. You can't say, well, there's no point in doing C because it's not going to fix anything. It has to still fix the problem, but on a very minimal basis that leaves plenty of room for growth later or something. And then option A, you know, you throw in, so if you're doing profiles and speaking, you say, I'll even throw in my additional time to talk to all of the original managers. I'll throw in free profiles for everybody in the organization, you know, which is there's 200 of them. I mean, there's, throw in a lot of additional value that doesn't cost you a whole lot more. It still has to be a very profitable. The big benefit to this is twofold. One, they see 3 chances to say yes instead of 1. They'll choose normally the middle one, okay, because they're just being fiduciary responsibility of the business. I don't want to be crazy.
And Jay, if I could add real quick, there is a research project done on home purchases, and that is 100% the case. And there's also research done at MIT on just appeal of individuals. And what they found is that the option A minus a little bit was chosen 63% of the time, more than option A or C.
Yep.
And so and so it is. That's perfect. You give them all in, right? This is the home that needs nothing, right?
Yeah.
And it's $355, and this is the home that has everything, but the counters need to be replaced, and it's $42,000 less, right, or whatever.
It's still a good solution, but not, crazy off the chart. Here's what happens with this: if you do get into further negotiations, okay, because this isn't a signed contract yet, so verbally we've agreed this is where we're thinking. So we're at $60,000 to $80,000, or $6,000 to $8,000 range.
Yeah.
If you're at $600 to $800, then we'll talk about that on another seminar. It doesn't have to be 60 to 80. I mean, let's say it's $6,000 to $8,000, right? This is plenty, good, sufficient revenue. That gives you the freedom and flexibility. In there, you'll create an A, a B, and a C, right? 8,000 is the A. Somewhere in the 7,000 is B, and maybe 5,000 is C, or 6,000 C. Somewhere in there, break it up. Doesn't have to be increments of 3 when you're negotiating it. Just talk about what makes sense. Leave yourself some bandwidth. Here's the big benefit. When you get back and there's still some discussion to be had live, don't do this in emails. When somebody says, I like what you're offering, but I need it to come down about 10%. If you have one option, there's this ether below you. There's nothing else hard and established. So think of car sales, and I don't mean in a slick kind of, schmarmy way. I mean, when you say something that's tangible, a house like Brian just used, we'll use houses. Somebody goes, well, it's not in our budget. We need that to come down about, $1,000, $2,000, or $20,000. Say, well, okay, then you're talking option C. If I don't have anything below it, it's harder for me to defend. I can't cut the price that much. It's a lot easier for me to say, so you're looking for the option C price because you want to come down $2,000. Well, that's already a solution. And it's like concrete in their head. They go, oh, think of cars. And the reason I say cars is you go, I want this Porsche. I want this Cadillac. I want this Honda. And they go, okay, I like that, but I need like 2,000 off of it. And the guy says, oh, well, then that's the XL. There's a thing that already lives in that price point, and it saves you. It stops them. And you go, if you want that, then that's already something in existence.
And the thing to do, Jay, I think too, in that discussion is if they give you that, we're looking for 10% less. The first thing we got to do is understand whatever their volley is. If they're looking to get a concession, say, help me understand the 10%. And they might say something to the effect of, well, we've got our own audio visual. We've got this, this, and this. And that may be the opportunity just to simply go, oh, well, we didn't even include that in our pricing. Or they say something to the effect of, well, the 10% actually represents, we actually have some profiles we bought from another company. And so we thought we could, maybe do a little negotiating there. But again, it's important to understand what that volley is up front so that, and I think also too, in that proposal, and I know we're getting close to the end, when we do actually write that confirmation document up, writing that summary in the first paragraph of their situation, what we did, and I'll actually remind them through the course of our conversation, Jay identified that there is a tremendous amount of visibility or optics on this project, right? Timing is important, and lack of, results or not. So people understanding each other quicker is going to be pivotal, or whatever, right?
And we've got seminars coming up on negotiating and all of that. So, I think we'll definitely cover a lot more of that with the intervening 20 seconds that we have. Big picture, big takeaway. So to me, negotiate live. Don't ever submit a proposal. Think of it as a confirmation. You've got to be able to get to that point face-to-face or on the phone live with them. Leave yourself bandwidth and carve it up into 3 different options. So that's our 20. Time to go sell some shit.
Go sell some shit. Thanks, Jay. Have a great day, brother.
Bye, you too.